Okay, guys, this is Chuck Pressburg again, Presscheck Training and Consulting, starting in on video 3 for the 148/Legacy Tactical Radio / TRI Milsim Radio, whatever it is you guys are listening to this damn video for. Part 3, we're going to talk about antenna placement, radio placement, push-to-talk, routing, all that stuff, as well as some of the headsets. Before we get into any of that, though, last alibi on PTT design and construction. One of the things that I did not talk about, I just mentioned that the PTTs had all these other features, is length of cable. All right, you guys can all see I've got a PTT hooked to my vest, I've got a PTT here, and I have another PTT here. And the length of the cables are all different. And that's because I want to have the right tool for the right job. If it's going to be a PTT worn up front, I'm going to have the shortest cable possible. If I am going to wear a radio on my back, we could talk a little bit about why. 90% of the time wearing a radio on your back is some dumb 90s retro Navy SEAL bullshit and has no place on the modern battlefield. But if you are going to wear a radio on your back, and there are times that you should, you need to have a longer PTT so that you can access that. And then finally, coiled PTT. Cold PTT can also be used on the back and then routed around over the shoulder to the front or up under the arm to the front, however you prefer. But more often than not, when I used coiled PTTs was for ICS. All right, intercom communication systems inside of vehicles. So this thing would get hooked to a VIC-3 or something inside of the vehicle, and then it would hang, and I can pull it towards me and then strap it and then clip it onto my kit and plug in. If I was only running a single radio, I always wore my dual comm Peltors, by the way. Even when I was a single radio ranger, I still wore my dual comm. And the reason for that is because I always had an extra pigtail available for ICS. Anything that I flew in as a soft guy, I had access to ICS, either to talk to air crew or to talk to my mates inside of the deal. Not everybody got ICS in every vehicle because of limited communication ports and whatever. But by the time that ICS really became a thing, I was up at a high enough position or rank that I rated getting to be able to talk to the air crew or whatever most of the time as a chalk leader when I was on an aircraft. So not all aircraft are set up to plug and play. So I would bring an extra system in the event that it was not my dedicated vehicle or my dedicated aircraft. And that way I could plug into what they had. If I came in and they had some janky headset system or whatever, and I didn't want to take my helmet off in the aircraft or whatever, I would just remove their cabling from their ICS box, add my own, and roll with it. And 99 times out of 100, I didn't have any impedance issues talking with my systems onto theirs. There were some notable exceptions to that. So that's why I always made sure that I have at least one coiled PTT available to me in my assault bag or whatever. All right, somebody on the Instagram teaser video or in one of my still pictures asked specifically about this comms adapter. Can anybody see the difference between these two 6-pin connectors and their hookups? If you can't tell, this one on the right has another hookup. It is called Hiroshi. And Hiroshi is, 6 pins also. And it is a quick disconnect. Push in and then pull the flange and pull out to release. Now, what does Hiroshi do for you? Hiroshi allows you to have potentially more than one of these and still use the same PTT. So if I need to go 10-pin maritime emitter, the Navy SEAL and Jarhead emitter, then I could use that. Has completely different connector up here designed to be a connector called a 10-pin Tempest, and that allows that radio to be waterproof or whatever. Obviously, if you're adding Hiroshi into the mix, you're giving up your waterproofness, but I could switch this thing out for multiple style connectors. Also, when you're routing all your cables and everything, if you're zip tying everything down and getting everything locked in exactly how you like it, how are you getting your radio off and on your kit? Because your radio spends most of its time sitting in the charging port waiting for a mission. So Hiroshi allows you to have your push-to-talk cable hooked up wherever the hell you want it and not having to worry about pushing and disconnecting the 6-pin. This O-ring seal-up can be really, really hard to mate up depending on how new or old the radios are. The push-turn, it can really, really be difficult to accomplish, even if you're licking the O-ring, so to speak. So I actually do stick my tongue in my connectors. Silicone lubricant also works good on O-ring lube to get these things in, but they can be a real pain in the butt to get locked in and set. So once you get a 6-pin on where you want it, you can pretty much leave that thing attached and then leave your push-to-talk attached to your body armor or kit or whatever, and then pull your radio out of the docking station, throw it in your pouch, and then feel around, turn Hiroshi till she lines up, and push it down and lock it in. Boop, and it's locked in. Okay, so it seems pretty convenient. The other thing I could do is I could bring one push-to-talk for my, let's say, command radio, and an extra 6-pin. I could hook this into the VIC-3 of an aircraft. I could unplug from whichever radio I do not wish to use while inside of the vehicle. Normally, it's command because the vehicle is also monitoring my command. So I shut my command radio down. I leave my assault net on. And then I take this and plug that into the VIC-3, and I hook Hiroshi into it. When it's time to dismount, go do combat shit, disconnect, leave that attached to the aircraft, hook that into the other one that is on my command radio, and I don't have to carry an extra push-to-talk in my pocket. I can use the same push-to-talk for both jobs. So that's all I'm going to say about PTTs. Cable length, buttonology, extra comms ports for masks, how the Nexus pigtail locks in, whether it has its own cord and female end or whether it plugs straight into the pigtail, plugs straight into the female portion, and the female portion is essentially part of the PTT. All of that is user definable. If you are a high-end comms user and you want your shit to work right every time, you can go to any of the major tactical communications companies and they will make a PTT for you. And they will even take care of your impedance issues if you are having any of those. For example, this is a TEA Invisio from NextLink. And the Invisio earpiece does not work with U.S. Army helicopters. The push-to-talk might work. Plug a Peltor into it, it'll sound fine. Plug this Nexus into it and key up, and something about this Invisio makes every air crew member in the helicopter want to throw their helmet out the window while trying to fly the chopper. Less than optimal. If I took this problem set to a place like Television Equipment Associates, they would actually send a tech out and using a multi-spectral, whatever the damn thing is with the two needles that's black and red and all that crap. They would figure out what's going on with the impedance of that aircraft system talking to what's going on in this PTT and the Invisio, and they would be able to create a PTT that handled or compensated for that level of impedance in that specific aircraft using that headset. All right, not going to beat impedance to death anymore. So all of these PTTs that have the standard Nexus, which is not waterproof, again, you will see some NSW maritime folks using pigtails, but that's because they're fighting 500 miles from the nearest ocean in Afghanistan. So they're actually modifying their maritime-only equipment to use easier connectors that are just more convenient for ground combat. And then they will keep their inline headsets that basically from, you'll hear, there's a version of this called a swimmer's headset. This Davies, the nickname for these, we call them secrets. Like secrets, like the cough drops that used to be in the can before Altoids and shit. I don't know why it was called a secret headset. It was just one of those nicknames that I've heard for the last 25 years. So there's a secret swimmer's version that has no Nexus brake. It's a straight line to the PTT, and then the PTT has a Nexus, a Tempest 10 pin, and that is a sealed system from microphone to radio. That thing is completely watertight. But can't take your radio off without taking your headset off because they're tethered to each other and there's no quick disconnect. So the Nexus Uniform 92 Alpha Uniform U92 Nexus Pigtail was the favored for all the ground guys. So some of the different headsets I used along the way. Like I already said, we got the Secret headset. This was called the Urban headset with the original communications suite that came with the MBITR. All right, this headset came with the original 148. It's also made by Davies, which is a UK company, by the way. I had one of these going all the way back into the early 90s, and it had some type of like Cool Max elastic sock that went over this, so it didn't feel like a giant rubber suction cup on the side of your head when you were sweating your ass off. Regardless of what you did, this elastic band going across your forehead when worn under a helmet was excruciating, and it did retard some of the noise coming off, ambient noise coming off of the left side of your head. It was ambidextrous. You could wear these on the right as well, I think. But for patrolling, that felt really bad. And you're going to hear a common theme as I'm talking real quick before I get into the Peltor about why the Peltor has survived the test of time. And you know, the long story short, the Lash, Los Angeles SWAT headset, the throat mic, the Swimmer's headset, the Secret Urban headset, whatever the hell you want to call them. In-the-ear earbuds like your Invisio here, these all have the same problem, that they're not giving you any hearing protection. And some of them, like the Invisio, are actually preventing you from being able to hear well out of that ear, but not providing any audio protection from gunfire whatsoever. So you can't hear, and you can get your ears damaged, and you can't put any hearing protection in that ear because you've already stuck something else into that ear. So these are all real kind of briefed well, worked well in a I walk around 99% of the time and shoot guns 1% of the time type of situation, like you would see in a UN peacekeeping mission or being a cop in the United States, whatever. After the war started, it was not 99-1. Like the amount of times that we went out and exchanged gunfire with people compared to the amount of times that we went out and didn't exchange gunfire with people in the beginning was probably 1-1. 50% of the time, somebody was dying. Every time we went out on target. 6% of the time works every time. It's like Sex Panther, except we're talking about bodies. after things settled down a little bit, I was still 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 missions. We're going to end up in a gunfight. And then there was the loud-ass helicopter or the loud-ass armored vehicle going to or from the gunfight you may or may not get into. So active hearing protection became a real big deal. So obviously we went with the Peltors. Problem with the Peltors is that they're earmuffs. And people that live in cold-ass places like Minnesota, they wear earmuffs because this shit keeps your ears warm so they don't catch frostbite and you don't die. So you're wearing a design that is designed to insulate your ears and keep them hot on your head, under a helmet, when it's a balmy 132 in Baghdad. Miserable. Completely, absolutely miserable. But cost of doing business. Where the juice is not worth the squeeze is when you go into the jungles of Panama. And them Peltors, they're not the world's most waterproof system. And you're in 90+% humidity, and it's 90 degrees, and you're in a jungle. A hot, sweaty, miserable, bug-infested, everything there, including the plants, want to kill you jungle. So this is my Recce headset. Had a little bit of spongy things on it. Sits in front, right in front of your ear, not over your ear. Has a little boom mic on it. If you did need to go do a direct action, you know, if you were patrolling, doing recon, whatever, and then you decided you were going to go, you know, hit a village or something, because it doesn't sit over the ears, you can use standard passive earplugs, roll them right up, stick them in your ears, and maybe try to save some of your hearing for the big mission, the big raid, if you will. Problem with these, man, they're quiet. These things are quiet. So you have to have your radio cranked all the way up. And even then, if you've got dudes that are trying to play, excuse me, I'm tired, long day. If you got dudes that are trying to play Super Ninja Tactical, patrolling in the jungle, whispering guy, you can't hardly hear what they're saying. Somebody talking with their outside voice like me, yeah, you're going to hear me. But some dude up front breaking, psst, we have an enemy patrol on the trail. 5 guys, 50 yards out. You're just not going to hear that shit. Shouldn't be using damn radio in the jungle anyway. Go back to hand and arm signals, damn it. So that was my my rural Recce headset, and it worked pretty good. I don't know the manufacturer. I don't know the manufacturer. I just know the sound it made when it took a man's life. No, I don't know. I don't know what the nomenclature is on that thing. I'm sure you guys on the internet are smart. You can find out. Talk a little bit more about the Invisio Pro. So we would go to the Miracle Ear store and have them pour goo in our ears. It cost us $75. And then we would send our ear molds off to Television Equipment Associates, and they would custom mold the Invisio earplug to our ear canal design. So as you can see, it's got my name and Lima for left ear. I had these done in left and right ear based on the mission set and what I was trying to accomplish. So it's got little holes here. That's where the speaker comes out, transmits the stuff, and then you've got this squishy little gray nub off to the side, and that's a bone conduction inner ear thing. So this thing gets seated in there, and it reads that and transmits it in place of having some type of traditional microphone. All right, so some people, they just didn't have good ear canals, and they sounded like a bag of smashed assholes on the radio when they used the Invisio. But there were guys that really, really liked the sound quality in Invisio. So it was possible to take your boom mic from your Peltor and your Invisio and my handy dandy Davies push-to-talk and hook the microphone of the Peltor ComTac right into the push-to-talk, run this microphone up through the molly on the front of your vest, placing the foam microphone right there below your chin, and then plug an Invisio in to your pigtail. And now essentially you've made an earbud speaker, receiver, and a traditional microphone transmitter. So if you've got guys that and there's always that guy on that team, he just sounds like he's got a fucking bag of marbles in his mouth whenever he speaks, and nobody can understand what the hell he's saying. If you guys are using some type of funky-tastic bone conduction, reverse osmosis, desalinization, sweatband microphone or whatever, and you can't understand the motherfucker, don't be afraid to go back and get a regular boom mic off of one of your ComTacs and then hook it to one of these sexy ass push talks, and the dude's going to end up sounding a whole lot less fucked up on the radio. All right? Cool. So that covers headsets. Let's talk about mounting of the radio to the body armor. I have my little smartphone thing, so I know where my head-mounted Garmin Verb GoPro camera thing is and what I'm looking at here. All right, first off, back up. That is wrong. Okay? I got a Blue Force Gear radio pouch. In my opinion, the best tactical radio pouch on the market for a variety of reasons. When you stick your 148 radio into the pouch, you should do so that the radio screen is facing back towards your body. There's several reasons for that. It protects the radio screen from blunt force trauma. You know, somebody takes a shot at the title and they decide to beat you with a lead pipe. The radio backside is going to protect your glass display screen. Also, the radio is trying to act as a heat sink and off gas. So the back of the radio, having it away from your body, is going to allow that heat to come off of the radio and keep the radio cooler. Another reason why I like this radio pouch is because it's not padded, and padding essentially acts like an insulated cooler or heater, and the last thing you want is your radio operating at 130 degree ambient temperature and hot as fuck because you're transmitting on SATCOM at maximum wattage to get stuck inside of a padded bag and cook itself. So the Blue Force Gear pouch is got elastic on the side, 10-speed elastic on both sides, and allows it to flex for the thickness of either the 152 or the 148. As you know, the Falcon Series radio and the MBITR have different lengths, so this opens up at the bottom, very intuitive design, and it does that for two reasons. It allows you to adjust the length of your radio or extra batteries or whatever. So the 152 being longer, you would just extend the bottom of the pouch down further. The other thing it allows you to do is conduct battery changes without removing your radio or its antennas or its push-to-talks from their configuration on your armor. So once you have your antennas attached, your PTT attached, your radio tied down, whatever, if you start getting a low battery indicator and you know it's just time to change batteries in the field, you can open up the bottom of your pouch, find your radio release button, hit it, turn, remove the battery, turn, slap another battery on there, and then close your pouch back up. So, might need a buddy to help you out, but really, really convenient, okay? Why is it such a big deal, and why don't we just pop our radios out the top when we need to mess with them or switch stuff around or do whatever? Well, because unlike most law enforcement handheld rovers, these are going to have antennas and cabling attached to them that make doing that kind of a pain in the ass. So once you get it settled down in the pouch where you'd like it, it's pretty much good to leave it there. The last reason why we run our radios inboard is because, let me just double check and make sure you guys can see what I'm seeing. That is your channel selector knob, and it does not have a lockout. So if this thing gets bumped, you are changing freaks. All right. So by placing it on the inside here, this prevents your arm or your weapon when you have it tucked up under your arm or whatever, prevents it from getting bumped if the radio is turned around right side out or facing away from you. So you're protecting your channel knob from accidental selection. So for you guys that have some say-so in how your radios are programmed, unlike this radio, which allows the knob to spin 360 degrees, that is a Chinese knockoff thing. That is not how an actual 148 or GEM or 148 Block 2 operates. They operate with 16 presets on top, and they bottom out at the 1 and at channel 16. So if I was king for a day, I would have my primary assault net on channel 1. I'd probably have the RTO program the assault net on channel 2, and I'd have programmed the assault net on channel 3. So my radio would have to get bumped 2 positions for me to even notice that I was no longer talking to my friends. And then maybe I would put the next most important channel for command and control, my command net or whatever, on like 4, 5, 6. And then I'd put some adjacent unit stuff in there. But coming around the back side of it, positions 14, 15, and 16, when you rotate the dial all the way around to the other side and it locks out, should also be important. And without getting too much into TTPs, I think you guys could probably figure out some other channels that are extremely emergency important that you might want to flip to. And I would put those channels all the way over on like position 16 and 15 and 14. So if all of a sudden I can't hear anybody, all I got to do, rotate my knob clockwise, counterclockwise until I bottom it out. That is my assault net, channel 1. If I need to talk to whoever in an emergency, really important. Really, really important. I got to talk to this person right now, life or death. I would put them all the way over in 16 and then just spin the knob clockwise until it bottoms out. And that's position 16. So without having to count clicks, I know where my 2 most important frequencies in this entire radio are located right up here on top. All right? Okay, now let's talk to antenna. So my radio, as a member of a platoon size element, going out and doing, infantry-ish stuff. Forgive my vest. I have my plates removed. They're in another set of armor right now. All right. My radio is the furthest thing forward on the left side other than my emergency reloads. So I have my emergency reload pistol in what we call the position of honor for me. And that is just off the 12 o'clock, or just off the front stack of mags on the front of the armor. So, I'll bring this around. All right. Front of the vest. Triple stack of 5.56 mags, right? Running right across here. Or mag pouches. First set of pals off of the front flap of the vest is pistol reload, because that simulates right about where pistol reload would be on duty belt. Right behind that, emergency rifle reload. This is my go-to rifle emergency reload spot. So first non-emergency reload of rifle and pistol is Mr. Radio. Now, if you're on a SWAT team and all you have is attack frequency that you switch to give you guys a net to operate on, you're not going to be changing frequencies. Like that's your frequency. So that's when stupid things like putting your radio on your back, they don't sound quite as stupid anymore. You still have volume issues. There are times where you might want your volume up louder than other times, and I hate having to ask someone else to do something for my radio. I want my radio to be self-sufficient, right? So that's why my radio has to be up front. And it wasn't always up front. It took a war and figuring out that I needed to be talking to different people, pushing information, providing situational awareness, asking for guidance, demanding support, begging for rockets and guns, pleading for a helicopter to come pick up my wounded. All of those things involved radios. And normally those radios were not set because that wasn't my primary job. I wasn't a medic. I wasn't a JTAC. But I was a grown-ass man that had responsibilities. So the ability to change your radio to multiple nets, and sometimes in multiple wavelengths or bands, I think is extremely important for any empowered low-level tactical leader. So that's enough of my soapbox about that. So that is why my radio is so far forward. It's even further forward than my first aid. My blowout kit is harder for me to get to than my radio because of how important that radio is and who it can talk to. So if I am just running around as just a nug member of my platoon and whatever, and we're out doing a job or whatever, I might want a little small, easily movable antenna that bounces around, and I don't even realize that it's on my kit, you know? So the VHF band might be a good net for the assault net because the people that are on the assault net are doing stuff other than just talking on the damn radio, and the antenna is very low profile and kind of out of the way. Chuck, why does this antenna have 100-mile-an-hour tape on it? Thought you guys would never ask. It's because, and we're about to talk about this ad nauseum, when you start stacking modular pieces of equipment on each other, you have to worry about stacking tolerances. And sure enough, these lowest bidder antenna-making sons of bitches made this thing with a modular design. So by screwing into the radio, I can accidentally work out the antenna, and the actual pin that has to make contact with the inside of the damn radio to transmit and receive the RF energy could be backed off, and you're not getting a good, solid connection. So in order to keep the antenna's base from working itself undone, added a little 100-mile-an-hour tape to that shit. Go ahead and work yourself out of that now, bitch. So with all of this, we're dealing with stacked tolerances. When you add Hiroshi to a 6-pin, you got more pins in there. Look, those pins are dirty as shit. You are losing energy every time you cross over. If we had a cup and a wire and a cup, you would have the best transmission you could ever have. But when we start splicing and adding shit in between the sender and the receiver, all of that comes at a cost. So these really sexy, convenient Hiroshi pins, that's just more stuff that can get dirty, that can get corroded, and can start to bleed off your optimal stuff. This becomes extremely important in fringe comms, people. Extremely important. That's why we're always talking about using pencil erasers and cleaning off those brass parts everywhere you see them. These brass parts, they are mating up with one another and transferring energy. And that energy determines how far and how clear your transmission gets to the people that need to hear what the fuck you're saying. So, I'm only telling you that as a warning. Why am I warning you guys? Well, because a lot of people, like all you folks in the big army, y'all are stuck in VHF low band, which means you have this antenna that is over 3 feet long. Probably not optimal to have this radio up front and then have a 3-foot long antenna on it. So what is the first thing you folks want to do? You want to introduce Mr. Remote Cable Attachment. All right, this is a connector that screws into your antenna port and then has a wire of a certain length that goes to a replicated antenna receiver that your antenna could hook into. So in this case, on Chuck's armor, we have a VHF low band 30 to 90, and I have it attached to my vest. I've got it insulated with some tubular nylon, which I use for extraction and extremis climbing. It is held on with some heavy-duty parachute skydiver rubber bands, extremely durable retainer bands, and it's on my back, and it's remoted to my radio. So this allows the antenna to be off of my body, not getting grounded out, and extend north on my headset, or north off the back of my armor, and give me really good line of sight. This is a nice setup. This here is going to talk further than the exact same antenna folded 3 damn times on the front. But it is not going to talk as good as this exact same antenna screwed into that radio and completely unfolded like this one is. So there's a time and a place for everything, and there's no free lunch. By adding this connector here to the radio, I'm losing energy. Then I turn it 90 degrees, and there's a connector in here. Even though this is a very quality build, I'm losing energy. Then I go here, and the antenna hooks in to the cable down on the bottom here, and the antenna's starting to kink, or the cable's starting to kink a little bit. I'm losing energy. So it doesn't matter when you're inside of a house talking to your buddies. But when you're trying to get this radio to reach 6, 7, 8 kilometers in a line of sight comm shot across a valley to another maneuver element that you're working with, remoting your antenna cable could potentially cause you to not make comms with people that you would have made comms with had you been tied in directly. And, if you take these tolerances, then you stack, a Hiroshi in the mix, and then we've got, the pigtail on this end, and, once you start stacking it all up, your radio is going to start doing funky shit. So, when your life depends on it, and you have to absolutely make comm, there is not a much better way to do it than to go back to internal audio, pull your radio off your kit, direct attach your antenna, and talk into the MBITR like it's a walkie-talkie. You have removed all of the troubleshooting of all the wiring and anything that could go wrong with your headset, with your push-to-talk, with all of that crap. You're getting it all out of the equation. You're taking the internal microphone and the internal speaker system that are hard-cased inside of this device, and you're taking this antenna and you're putting it straight into the top of the damn radio. And by holding it up to by your head, you're probably not masking the antenna with your body as much when you're holding it up. Covey leader to Raven, talk to me, Johnny. They're all dead, sir. So, all joking aside, from 30 to 85, this is about the best way to make comms. Right here. Doesn't look sexy, but take your ass to a hilltop and set up your radio like this, and you will probably be able to talk to people that you weren't able to talk to in any other way, shape, or form. All right? So it's just all about principles and troubleshooting. You got to know where your potential shortfalls are on your radio, and you got to have a plan that goes from I can talk and everything's great, and there has to be levels in there before you get to I can't talk to anybody and I don't know what's wrong. It's your equipment. It's your radio. I can't stand people that carry kit that doesn't work, that they don't trust, And then they get mad about it. And it's like, hey, man, you know, if it was scuba tanks and your ass was at the bottom of the ocean, you got the rest of your life to figure out what in this system of shit strapped to your body, regulator, BC, tank, valves, mask, all that. You have time. You have the entire rest of your life to figure out why you ain't getting no air when you breathe in and to fix that shit. So, but people like, I can't talk to anybody. I can't work in these conditions. And they shut off their radio. And then they yell at Romeo for the rest of the mission. You suck. My radio doesn't work. And you just sounded kind of stupid because it's your gear. I'm not a smart man, but I figured out that if they tell me the frequency's 55 dot something, I need the 3-foot long antenna. And if it's 400 and something, I need the big fat donkey dick. And if it's VHF 170 something, I need one of these skinnier little antennas that I can put up on the front of my kit. Stay away from remote cables if you can. Use them if you need them. Don't ground out your antenna. Memorize your channels. Have the most important ones right up against your channel stop. Don't let your radio run out of batteries. Get a good headset. Get a good headset that protects your hearing. Or at least doesn't get in the way of you protecting your hearing. That is pretty much it. I'm sure you guys got questions. Bitches, gripes, complaints. I know you do. It's the internet. It's what you guys do. Hit me up in the comments section. Share this shit. Tell your friends about it. Appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Got well over an hour of content in these 3 videos, but I think it's some useful shit. All right. Till next time, you guys be good.